but I declined that part. But then I had an offer to meet with Penny Marshall and Danny DeVito, and I was like, you mean Laverne? From Laverne and Shirley? They said, yeah, you know, she's in New York. I said, I loved her. I grew up watching her and Danny, and I just felt like, you know, I wanted to meet them. So I showed up at the meeting in New York, and Penny and I started having a discussion, and she goes, why don't you want to act? You're acting anyway. You act like a tough guy. You know, you should give it a try. And I was like, it was just the first time that I felt comfortable in the room. I could identify with them. They were neighborhood people from New York, but I'll let that slide, being a Boston guy. But I felt really comfortable with them, and 5 minutes after sitting there with them, I found myself going outside of the room with the sides, learning the lines, and I auditioned for 5 different roles that day. And then I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta get this part. She was nice enough to call me, to invite me to LA. I had to fly myself out to LA for a screen test. And it was a weird screen test. Penny is not your normal director. She had everybody else who was up for the part in the room, and everybody else who was up for every other part, because she was basically trying to find the right chemistry within the group of guys in the classroom, and the guys going through boot camp. So I remember fighting for that part. I finally got the part when I got the phone call. I was ecstatic, and from the first moment I walked on set, I realized I had finally found my calling and my niche, and I didn't want to do anything else. And I would literally be on set every single day because I wanted to understand everybody's job. Whoever was in front of the camera, behind the camera, and then after that it was Basketball Diaries, and I never looked back. I mean, I only did music after that overseas because I never wanted to take a movie for a paycheck. I only wanted to find roles that would continue to allow me to slowly grow as an actor. And so I would run around overseas and, you know, rap, and then I would come back here and you know, pursue my passion and my dream, which is to become, you know, a respectable actor.
Did you encounter roadblocks or resistance? Because I know Hollywood loves to typecast people.
Many. You know, it happened all the time. You know, that my second role was directed by the late great Scott Calvert of Basketball Diaries, and Leonardo, Dicapro, and I had a weird run-in at a MTV Rock and Jock basketball game, and I was performing in my underwear at halftime, and I think I blocked his shot. I was a punk. I was a prick, so I was not nice to Leo that day. And then Scott Calvert came to me and said, and he'd only said this to 3 artists that he worked with. He said it to Tupac, Will Smith, and myself. He goes, you guys should be actors, and you will be actors. And so he was directing Basketball Diaries. He called me in for an audition. Leonardo said, no way, I'm not making a movie with Marky Mark, as did a lot of other people. And so I continued to audition. Amy Kaufman, who's the casting director, I auditioned for her, and then everybody just started to come in town and watch me audition. They thought it was very entertaining. I remember Chris Blackwell, who owned Island Films and Island Records, you know, found Bob Marley. He literally came from Jamaica to watch me audition in New York. So finally they convinced Leo to read with me, and of course, I show up 8 hours late. By accident, I was going to New York. I was in New York, and it was going to be a snowstorm, so I said, let's go to Puerto Rico for the weekend with my entourage, right? So we fly to Puerto Rico. My flight gets canceled. I show up late. He's sitting there pissed. I mean, we're going to the audition. He's sitting there pissed. And I didn't feel like he was necessarily the right guy for the part either. You know, he was, because he's not a New York street guy, basketball player, you know, street legend. I was like, this dude, I've seen him play ball. So we both had a bit of a chip on our shoulders, and then, you know, we started reading the scenes, and I looked at him, he looked at me, and I was like, oh shit, this dude's good, and he said, oh my God. So that day, they gave me the part in the room, we became fast friends, and he actually, he was having a meeting with James Foley shortly after we shot the movie. James Foley directed me in Fear, so he says, I'm not really right for this part, but you should hire Mark Wahlberg. And he said, who's that? He goes, you know, this is going to sound crazy. You know the rapper Marky Mark? Foley goes, what? Are you out of your fucking mind? And he goes, no, you should hire this guy to be in the movie. So Foley, just out of curiosity, had a meeting with me because neither Renaissance Man or Basketball Diaries had come out yet. So Foley meets me, we have an 8-hour meeting in New York, we have a blast, we hang out. By the time I get back to my house in New Jersey, the phone's ringing. He goes, dude, I just want to tell you something. I had a blast hanging out with you. There's no way I can put you in the movie, but I still want to be your friend. I said, no problem, I wouldn't have hung out with you for 8 hours if I wasn't having a great time. Don't worry about it, it's your movie, do whatever you gotta do. And then out of guilt, he felt, well, I'll let him audition for one of the sidekick parts. I auditioned. The sidekick parts didn't even have any lines, so I had to read for the main role. After the audition, he literally called Brian Grazer in Universal and he said, I'm not making this movie without Mark Wahlberg starring in it. And then Brian Grazer was like, what the heck is this? I never met the guy before. We've never seen him in a movie. You know, this is a fairly expensive movie. But I've met and faced many roadblocks. And you know what? Those are things that I understood completely and I didn't mind.